Anna Weiss received her BA in sociology from the University of Colorado in Boulder and her MA in humanistic psychology from Antioch University, London. From 1973 through 1981, she studied, trained, and worked with C. Maxwell Cade in London and is considered his primary protege and inheritor of his work. Her professional focus has been upon clinical practice, and she has conducted workshops in Taiwan and throughout Europe and the United States, most recently at Esalen. In 1988, she founded the WISE Center in Marin County, where she trains people to access, achieve, and sustain optimal mental states. She'll be showing you how this works with a device called the Mind Mirror, which C. Maxwell Cade invented. Anna Weiss.
Hello, I'm Anna Wise, and I'm going to be talking about brainwaves and consciousness training. And to talk about that, I want to develop a little bit of common language with you first so we understand what we're referring to in terms of brainwaves and brainwave frequencies. And to talk about that, I want to refer to the Mind Mirror, which is an EEG, electroencephalograph, that was invented by Maxwell Cade back in the 70s. The early original prototype version was invented. I was trained on a prototype of this machine that had magic marker numbers written for the frequencies and a little GSR box that was built in a recipe box. So I come from many years of developing this equipment or watching it being developed. This is the Mind Mirror 2, the second version beyond the first one, which was developed out of the prototype. There is now a Mind Mirror 3 out, and it works with a computer, and I use it at home with my 386, and I didn't feel like trying to lug the big tower and things here. So I'm using this one for our demonstration, but I'll talk about the Mind Mirror 3 a little bit before I'm finished. So what we're measuring here is brainwaves, and when this is hooked up, it will measure the brainwaves in this way. Can everyone sort of see the red lights? We tried to raise this so that you could see the patterns. Brainwaves are essentially measured in two ways. They're measured in frequency, thank you, in frequency and in amplitude. The frequency is the speed of the emission, which is measured in cycles per second or hertz. And if you were up close here, you could see numbers that register the frequency starting at the top at 38 cycles per second, measuring down to 0.75 cycles per second. The amplitude is the amount of power of that frequency measured in microvolts. The further out to the edges these red lights go, the more amplitude there is within that particular frequency that it's measuring. You can see this, these lights here. We're measuring what's called ambient noise in the room. The sockets are at 60 hertz, so the machine is right now picking up 60 hertz through here. Once this is hooked up to someone, and I will do a demonstration of this in a little while, that will be eliminated. So we're measuring frequency and amplitude, and it is the frequency of the brainwave that determines the category of brainwaves. The categories of brainwaves are beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And it is the combination of those categories that determines the state of consciousness or that underlies the state of consciousness that you are in at any given time. We are also measuring the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere on this machine. So it will show you 14 different frequencies in each hemisphere all at the same time. So before we go on with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about those categories of brainwave frequencies. The first category that I want to talk about is beta waves. On that machine, they would look something like that. That makes sense to people. All the frequency is out at the top. 38 cycles per second down to about 14 cycles per second is generally considered beta waves. Beta is your normal waking, thinking state. Hopefully a lot of you are producing at least some beta waves right now. Probably a lot of you are producing a lot of other waves too at the same time. But beta waves are what we think with. That's our conscious thought process. And so it's a very important frequency not to be denigrated. It's very important to use it acting out in the outside world. Down below beta waves, we have alpha waves. Alpha waves on this machine come out in the middle frequencies, 14 cycles per second down to 8 cycles per second in there. The border lines of where these categories change are disputable, and that depends on your orientation, your education, and your attitude towards brainwave frequencies. If anyone is specifically interested in that, we can talk about it in a question period later, but those borders are real fuzzy. Alpha waves are a kind of relaxed, detached awareness. They are daydreaming, they're light visualization, light reverie. They are the hypnagogic state you pass through to go into the dream state. It's said in Robert's write-up, which I really appreciated it in the package that you got at the beginning, that biofeedback was sort of got some bad press in the 70s, and that's really true. I'd like to reiterate that. Back in the 60s and even 70s, it was thought that alpha waves were the end-all and be-all of brainwaves, and that they were it. And so there was alpha this and alpha that, and everybody was trying to get into alpha waves. Well, you can produce alpha waves watching TV, so we know that they aren't the end-all and be-all of brainwaves. And a lot of you will produce alpha waves as soon as you close your eyes. You'll close your eyes and the alpha waves will come out. I can't guarantee that you'll keep the alpha waves going. There is something connected with the onset of the closed eyes that develops the alpha waves. But it was understood by clinicians and technicians back then that alpha was not what it was being made to be as this state of creativity or meditation. And so therefore, a lot of the emphasis on biofeedback, brainwave biofeedback, was lost and has only really started to reemerge with the more sophisticated understanding of neurotechnology and brainwave frequencies and the combination of brainwave frequencies that I would like to talk about. So that's your alpha waves. Let me not denigrate alpha waves. They're wonderful. They're a very important brainwave frequency. Every brainwave frequency that you're producing is an important brainwave frequency. Each has its role to play in the combination of the whole that you're producing at any given time. Alpha's main function in your state of consciousness is as a bridge between the conscious mind of beta and the subconscious mind of theta. If you do not have alpha, if you're not producing alpha waves, you will not remember your dreams, you will not remember your meditations, you will not remember your deep reveries, and you will not have access to hidden subconscious content, whether it's of a negative psychotherapeutic material or whether it's a subconscious creative inspiration or spiritual insight. You will not have access to it unless you have the bridge of the alpha waves maintained in some way. So alpha waves are very important frequencies. Down below alpha waves, we have theta waves. On this machine, they would come out looking somewhat like that. Theta waves are the subconscious mind. They range generally between 8 cycles per second to 4 cycles per second. They are dreaming sleep. They are the component of the meditation brainwave pattern that provides the depth of experience of meditation. So they are the spiritual connection. They are the peak in the peak experience. They are the aha in the aha experience. They're that oomph that's there. But again, they are not the most important brainwave frequency because alone, producing only theta waves, you won't have any idea of what you're producing. You won't remember what you're producing. You need other brainwaves in combination with your theta to bring back the content of that theta waves. So that's our subconscious. Long-term memory storehouse, too, is in there. Then down below that, we have delta waves. Delta waves are our lowest and slowest waves, down from 4 cycles per second to 0.5 cycles per second. This is a very slow pulsation. This is 1 emission every 2 seconds, compared to your 38 cycles per second up here at the top of beta waves. This slow emission of delta waves is the unconscious mind. It's what's left turned on when the rest of you turns off and goes to sleep. So you go unconscious and you're producing delta waves. However, delta waves are also present for a number of people in a waking state in combination with other brain waves. If you are producing primarily or almost only delta waves, then you would be asleep. But a lot of people produce delta waves in adjunct to other brainwave frequencies. And as such, I like to call them a kind of radar. They are the unconscious mind reaching out in radar in terms of your intuition. So delta is your intuition. It's empathy. Delta waves are present in almost all psi experiences, psychic types of experiences, telepathy, ESP, thought transference, all have delta waves present. Delta waves are also present in a lot of healers when they're practicing their various forms of healing arts. And all of it speaks to basically the mind reaching out with the unconscious radar to intuit and understand and experience on that deepest level what's going on in the outside world. So those are our 4 categories of brainwave frequencies, and it is how these categories combine that create the state of consciousness that you're in at any given time. And I will show right now a couple of these combinations, some generic combinations, and then we'll talk later about some odd combinations and how we work with those. Let's look at the meditation pattern. This is with or without delta. Delta is not essential to a meditation pattern, but essentially the meditation brainwave pattern is alpha and theta. It is the alpha that provides the bridge. So for example, if you're trying to meditate in here with our theta waves and you don't have the bridge, this material or content that's down held in the theta waves won't get up to the conscious mind when you wake up. Same thing with waking up after sleeping. You know how you have the content of the dream in your mind and you wake up maybe to an alarm clock. You pop awake to an alarm clock and you can feel that dream fragment disappearing and you reach for it and can't quite get it. And what's happening is you wake up, you come up, and the content goes back down again because you are not staying in the state of alpha reverie long enough to allow the content to filter up to your conscious mind. The same with meditation. You need the access of the alpha there to remember the content and the depth of the meditation. Now, the reason that Maxwell Cade invented this machine, he was a remarkable man. He was a yogi, and he was a scientist, and he was very much ahead of his time. And he wanted to know if we could measure the brainwave patterns of higher states of consciousness. So he invented the mind mirror for that purpose. And he carried out all of his research on yogis and swamis and people whose states of consciousness we would in some way emulate. And he found a pattern that kept repeating itself with these people that he measured, regardless of the content of the meditation or the dogma, philosophy, religion, or spiritual doctrine of the person that he was measuring. And he named this pattern the awakened mind pattern. And it's a pattern that looks like this. This is a pattern that he saw continually and repeatedly in people who were considered to have higher states of consciousness.